In today's video, I'm going to be talking about the latest reports surrounding Lautaro Martinez. I'll be speaking about Mason Mount and the mischief he got up to. I'm going to talk about the Alex Telles update, and you guys definitely want to hear what this is. And to end things, I'm going to be talking about the future of Mario Passalic and where his future is going to be for next season. So before I get into anything, today's video is brought to you by the One Football app. You guys, now with all this news that's coming out right now, catch it first on the One Football app. The One Football app gets new supports from all across Europe. It's convenient, it's quick. You can find everything in the app in an instant. Give it a go. It's free. You'll find a link below in the description. And without wasting any more time, after you've smashed that like button and given me 1,500 likes, we move on to the first story for the day. And I'm going to talk about what Mason Mount got himself up to. Now, this story has been brought to you guys by The Mirror. And it's looking like Mason Mount may be in trouble with the club because he isn't taking the protocol to self-isolate at home extremely seriously. Now the story is he went around the block with Declan Rice to like a five-a-side park place to kick ball. I mean, that's what I'm expecting young Premier League players to do. If you can't kick ball because of the coronavirus, you're going to find an opportunity to kick ball somehow. You know what I mean? If you got to go to goals to do that, that's what you're going to do. And you know what? Yeah, I just can't stand moist dads like this, Like reading this story, honestly, it was pretty funny. Like reading the extracts here. A stunned dad told the Mirror Sport, "I took my 14-year-old son there for a training session. We noticed a car that looked a bit ridiculous and wondered who was in it. Then came along 3 or 4 people inside. My son recognized Mason Mount as the driver, played a kickabout of 5-a-side. Declan Rice was playing too." Now this dad turned into full detective, as you can see here. You got the photos and the evidence and everything sorted, and obviously he wanted to do that because his plan was to sell the story the entire time. If anything, this really is going to be a valuable lesson for young players at this club. You're going to realize very early on that you've become a high profile person. You may not feel like that because you never actually do, but you quickly know from society, from the public, how people treat you, that you are seen as a high profile figure. So once you are one, it means that you have to move differently because people will be out to get you. At the same time, of course, we should be taking the coronavirus scare, a bit more seriously. You should be self-isolating, but I don't know. Is most of that down to us maybe assuming that he'd have some type of contact with Hudson-Odoi? Because we don't actually know the actual details behind what's happened, how Hudson actually contracted it in the first place or nothing. And maybe this is Mason being like, I feel absolutely fine. I've got all my boys around the corner. I want to play football. I'm absolutely bored. So I'm going to go around the corner, kick ball with Declan and have a good time. Life can never be this simple, unfortunately. And at the same time, I understand the club's position because unfortunately this story has been brought to the press. It's become spread throughout the media, and because of those reasons, Mason Mount is going to have to take an L and receive a punishment. But if anything, this is a life lesson. He should grow from this. And without wasting no more time, we move on to the second story for the day. And I want to talk about a player that I've been speaking about for a long time, a player that I've rated since he was playing in Argentina, and his name is Lautaro Martinez from Inter Milan. Now, this story has been reported to you guys by Sport, and they start the story by talking about Barca's interest in the player and just talking about the general history between Martinez and Barca. Barcelona want a striker to replace Suarez. They've been experimenting a lot. They've tried with Griezmann, and they've realized very early on that maybe Griezmann doesn't have all the qualities that they need for a striker at Barcelona. In steps Martinez, and he's a player that Barcelona are strongly interested in signing. The stumbling block though is that he does have a release clause of 111 million euros, which is a ton of money, especially for a club like Barcelona, who have been caught out financially a lot. They've been taking L's the players have been signing too, so naturally they're trying to find a way to bring the price down for the player. And their idea is to offer Arturo Vidal as a player in part exchange plus money to sign Martinez from Inter. Now the idea is that Conte still values Vidal very highly. He tried to sign him and he was a manager at Chelsea as well, and it's looking like Vidal would be interested in returning back to Serie A. Now what I found a bit perplexing, but for the sake of the article, I guess I have to accept it, is that Barca are hoping that Arturo Vidal will take off about 20 million from the deal. I don't see how that personally works, but getting back to reports, the interesting thing about the story is Martinez's release clause. Now, his release clause actually has a deadline, and that's between July 1st to the 15th of July, so it's about a 2-week window. And this is seen as the reference point by most clubs because Inter Milan don't want to sell the player at any cost, and really the only realistic way to sign him would be within this deadline window. Now, let's just take things back for a second. Barcelona are trying to sign Martinez by offering a player plus money to Inter Milan, the same Inter Milan that want like half our players from our team. Are we not in a prime opportunity to do business with Inter Milan? They currently have Moses, they've been looking at Marcos Alonso and Emerson for how long, and you can assume that both these players are valued at a much higher price than Arturo Vidal, and you can assume that Inter Milan needs a left wing back more than a midfielder in Arturo Vidal. Is this not the prime opportunity to do business with Inter Milan, especially when Premier League money has never been so valuable, has never been so wanted, and especially when Inter Milan are in a current situation financially themselves? Now, that's the news story. I want to give my thoughts and opinions on how Martinez could actually work if he was signed. Martinez is an exceptional player, great low center of gravity. He looks a bit similar in terms of how Aguero plays. I wouldn't say they play the same game, but due to their build, their strength, how they shoot the ball and how they play, there are a lot of similarities in their game. But my thing is, could we actually use Martinez and could it work? Because he would be a completely different player to the system. He's a player that plays a more withdrawn role. He's a bit similar to a Jovic in that sense. He does his best work playing off another striker. You're only signing Martinez and you're only showing serious concrete interest if you're planning on playing him alongside Tammy Abraham or behind Tammy Abraham instead of Mason Mount. Now, in the previous News Daily video I released earlier today, I did talk about a hypothetical diamond midfield 4-2-3-1 in a system like this, which is very fluid. Could things work? With modern day football, and especially with how Lampard manages the team and wants us to be, he wants us to be very fluid when it comes to using different formations. We've used a back three how many times this season? We were using a diamond during pre-season. We've used 3 in midfield, 2 in midfield. We've used so many different formations. Could Martinez be the next evolution to these principles? I could imagine some crazy things like a Christmas tree formation. I can imagine the diamond with Martinez, Tammy, and a Mason Mount playing alongside each other with, Ruben being the box-to-box midfield player making the late runs from deep, and Cover dropping alongside Kante in midfield when that happens. These are the possibilities I could see happening. However, is this realistic? Part of me feels like maybe Martinez could be a luxury at this point because we need other criteria for this team. As Lampard himself said, we need a winger that can get goals, that can score goals. I don't see us signing 2 players worth over 100 million in the window. I only see us signing one of them. So could this tell us that maybe Martinez might be a fallback option if we don't sign a Sancho? I know it's all very hypothetical, but as time goes on, as more reports come out, of course you'll find all the latest stuff here on Blue Lines TV, you guys. And to give you guys the final question, would you like to see Lautaro Martinez come? Do you think he's the right profile of striker we need? Say your reasons why, and if not, tell me the striker you prefer to sign instead of the player. But anyway, you guys, we now move on to the third story for the day, and that's the latest news surrounding Alex Telles. Now, really important news coming out from Portugal from A Bola, the sports application that does have a reputation for getting stories like this right. They are reporting that we finally made first contact with Alex Telles and his agent over talks to sign the player at the end of the season. Now, this is great news. This could work in our favor. There's so much to think about, so much to talk about, but let me just break things down. Let me finish with the news story first. It's finally come out. The reason why Telles has decided not to sign a new contract with Porto is because him and his agent have agreed that this could jeopardize any potential move to sign for us. Now, this is great news to hear, and it makes a lot of sense. Think of it like this. If you look at all the big clubs in Europe, you could argue that they all have that left back position solved. We're one of the few big clubs around that needs reinforcing, that need upgrades in that area. And we're looking at so many different players, so many different targets. Ben Chilwell is the favourite at this point in time, but his value is really high at 60 million. And due to that value and due to the club we are, it does mean that we are going to look at different possibilities for that position. Now, when it comes to Alex Telles, he was close to signing for us in the past. Him and his agent have a very good relationship with this club. They've kept in contact over the years, and there's always been talks of doing future potential business as time goes on. Porto are currently in a very dire financial situation. They need to sell the player. His release clause is around 40 million euros, but with the position of the club right now, I'd assume that Porto don't expect to receive that type of money, so it means that we could sign Telles for even less. I'd probably guess maybe 30 to 32 million. And it's looking very realistic that Alex Telles is going to be the next player to sign for us for next season. Now, this brings up very interesting theories because, as I spoke about in yesterday's News Daily video, could we be seeing a complete revamp in the left back area? Could we both see Emerson and Alonso leave and them getting replaced with Alex Telles and Ian Maatsen? Because Maatsen wasn't given a new contract for absolutely no reason. You know, with how we play now, you guys, you know, young players, as Lampard says, he don't care about age. He only cares about how you play and the talent. Maatsen clearly has that. And could we be seeing him and Telles competing for a left-back spot for next season? Well, maybe we could be, because reports stated that when Maatsen signed his new deal, he was promised assurances that he can compete for a first-team spot for next season. So these things are starting to add up slowly. And you guys, just imagine this. We sell both Emerson and Alonso for around 60 million. We're signing Alex Telles for half that money. We've got a backup option already at the club in Ian Maatsen. We've got an extra 30 million to spend and blow. We're taking off players off the wage bill as well, because I can't imagine Telles earning more than Marcos Alonso. This is the type of smart business I'm completely here for. And you guys, to end with the stories for today, I'm going to focus on the final report very quickly, and that's in regards to Mario Passalic. Now, he's been a very interesting player because we've known about him for years, yet he's never played a single game for us. At the time, maybe it was like a failed loan army experiment. It's kind of sad that he never got any opportunities. He's played for a lot of great loan teams, you know, clubs like Milan. He's played in Spain for Elche, you know, he's played for Spartak Moscow. He's played for Monaco. And, you know, surprise, surprise, the first time in his young career that he has that stability of actually staying at a club for more than one season was the secret ingredient to finally unlock that potential in the player. Because Passalic has had a big reputation in Croatia and especially throughout Europe when he was a very young player. You know, he's a box-to-box midfield player who has a great eye for scoring goals. He moves the ball very well. He can play in multiple positions in midfield. He's currently having his best season with Atalanta, and today, Italian journalist Nicolo Sciarra reported that Atalanta have agreed a deal to sign Passalic at the end of the season for 15 million euros. Now, I can imagine that we can feel a bit sad because now he's showing promise. He's looking very good. He's performing in the Champions League as well. And, you know, when most players perform in the biggest tournaments at the highest level, then that really tells you who's ready for the next stage in their career and who isn't. However, I can see things from the club's perspective. Unfortunately, we are kind of stacked in that position for attacking mids. You know, we've got Mason Mount, we've got Ruben, and we have Ziyech. So in that sense, we don't really need another player in that position. Even though it's sad that the player never had the opportunity to play for us, especially when it was a massive ambition to one day wear the shirt and get game time, I don't think we should take this news too negatively. It's taken Mario up until the age of about 25 to 26 to finally show his promise and his potential. And at this point in time, we've got younger players who are probably going to be even better than Mario by the time they're the same age as the player. So in that sense, I can see why the club are investing in the young guys for the long term, for the future. And that's because they're most likely going to fulfill their potential with us. And, you know, let's say Passalic was still there, he probably wouldn't get game time over Mason Mount or Ruben anyway. So good luck to the player. You know, he's playing for a very exciting team in Atalanta, one of the most exciting attacking teams in Europe currently. They're scoring goals for fun. I love watching them. I love teams like this, and I'm happy that Passalic is starting to get that recognition now and starting to really show what he's really about. But anyway, you guys, on that note, I'm going to wrap things up and keep things moving. Thank you for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe. I'm the EFC. This is Blue Lions TV. I'll see you guys tomorrow for some more videos.